Welcome back to a very basic space program. Last time we managed to get our first commercial sort of satellite communication thing done. It only took us 2 attempts and was an absolute embarrassment. I was going to wait for this new launch pad to finish building before we went for something a bit bigger, but I have an idea, so we're going to try something a little odd. If you're interested in seeing what that is, please join me. So before we get going, there was a comment in a previous episode about conformal decals. I will try and go through how to set them up and things like that actually in game when we get to that point. But if I forget to put a link down below to the mod and things like that, please put a comment and I'll try and respond, or I'll try and pin a comment or something like that. So let's have a look what I'm going to go for. I am going to accept Lunar Flyby, and I'm going to take Lunar Impactor as well. We're not going to take Lunar Orbiter just yet because I think I can complete both of those once we get that launch pad, and not too badly. So it's more a case of can I do it early? I was very tempted to take this test satellite, and I need to do that, but we know that craft that we've already launched can pretty much do that. We just need to increase the payload there on it. So maybe we should take that. It's got about a year on it, although it's going to take us a while to build that up. So we might want to have a look at that. Right, next thing is we need to spend some points because we have a lot of money right now, and yeah, let's look at what I'm going to do first though. Right, let's have a look in the VAB. Welcome to the VAB. So we are going to put together a little lunar probe or an impactor or a flyby mission. I'm not entirely sure which it is, and to be fair with you, a lot of the original lunar missions didn't do what they were supposed to do. So we're going to start off, we're going to call it Lunar 1, because that's clever. We're going to save that actually. And we've got ourselves an avionics unit. How are we going to get it there? We don't want to use a bigger craft than we already have, so we're going to use a little solid. And this is something that is probably not recommended in RP-1 now because of residuals and variation of burning and things like that. But we just want to go near the moon. If we get science, that's brilliant as well. So first of all, turn on telemetry. And what I'm looking for is we're going to go to Science Core, we're going to go to switch to Early Avionics. That's the one we've just researched. And we can see down here that all that electric charge in there gives us 1 year of electric charge. That's staggering. Right, we want to actually make sure we're transmitting. Let's say we're going to transmit about 15% of the time. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That takes it down a bit. Now, we need to actually do some real antennas work. So we're going to go to antenna planning. I'm going to pull this to one side, and I actually want to close this. We don't want this at the moment. We're going to do some antenna planning. So, first of all, our vessel, we want to make sure, don't do that. Don't use your scroll wheel, sea monsters. We want to make our vessel sure that it's the Lunar 1 avionics. That's good. Our ground station, because we've now upgraded our ground station, we're going to go all the way to the bottom, and we're going to look for one of these DSN or Deep Space Network ones. And we're going to find, I want to go for UHF. So we're going to choose just Madrid. Madrid's just a good UHF one to look at, right? And this now populates this, okay? I can hit plan, and it does all of this stuff. Now, our maximum distance, the distance maximum that we're going to have is going to be the distance of the moon to the Earth, which is about 380,000 kilometers. But we're going to go a bit higher than that. We're going to 400,000. So that's 400,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 zeros and a 4. There we go. Perfect. So let's plan that. And oh dear, it doesn't work. So what we do is we're just going to pull this up, and you can see this starts to change now. So what we could do is take it down to 35, and that gives us 1 byte per second that we're actually going to transmit, and we're going to receive 4. That's okay. We want to get our transmission up. We want to get this transmission rate up just a little bit because we don't know how long we're going to be in range for. And also we want to give ourselves a little bit of leeway there. So we're going to take it to about 38. If you take it to 40, you don't get anything else. And it's actually going to keep dropping your time down. So I think 38 is a nice one for us. We're going to have 38. So just click on plan a few times just in case you want. If you have got ground station tech that's actually going to be higher in the future, you can change it. You can change it up here and click apply, and it'll actually update these. So that's if you're still building them. We could have done this earlier. So we know that's going to work. We've got on 15. It's going to give us a lot of time, but we don't have much in the way of actually delta V. We need more delta V to get to the moon. So first of all, I'm going to change the shape of this thing. And we've got these two windows back up now. I've right clicked on that to get this back up. What I want to do is I want to go to, first of all, a hollow fillet cylinder, because I want to actually wrap our avionics around our little probe there. We're going to put this here so we can keep an eye on it. Let's actually put it down here so you can, let's put it there. Let's put it there. So, how am I going to build this? I want to lighten this down enough so that I've got the correct number of days. So I want to go for about 4 days. It should take about maybe 3 days, possibly 4 days to get to the moon. If we're going to impact it, it's going to be less time. It actually takes less time to get there. The closer you get, without going past the moon, things like that, the less time it's going to take. But we're going to try this. So we need to basically reduce this down. How do we do it? First of all, I'm going to just change some of the diameters a bit. We're going to make that length a little less, but I actually want to make the outer less first. We're going to do that. We're going to bring that down to about 50. Right, we're down to 20 days. So let's bring the outer down again, 15 days. You can see our delta V is going up. We put that there. Delta V is going up. So now we're going to do the outer again. It's up, we're almost there. And again, and we're now over what I want. So I now want to make it a little longer. And you should be able to see, there we go, too far. There we go. So we're going to be somewhere in here. Now, I can do this sort of semi-manually just by changing this value here, which is actually what we're going to do, I think. We've got 5 days there. I would really like to change that to about 5,000. Let's apply that. And this changes the length for me. Okay, so now we're at 3,300. That's not enough. I want to change that to 5,000. Make it 5,000 for me, please. Right. Now we're on 3,194. So we need to drop it a little more. And this is just about playing around with this. Luckily, this will rescale this length for us. You can make it a little thicker on the outside, and you can play around with this, and you might be able to get better rates. You can see I've got 4 days, 12 hours. We want to add to that a little bit, so let's make that another 50 and apply that. Right, we're down a bit again, so we're going to do this again. Another 100 onto there. We're going to add 200, so we're now adding more and more of this battery. Now I could add more. Experiments here. I could actually put an extra experiment in. So let's actually see what the experiments would do to us for weight. So configure experiments. Let's add a, I don't know, a TV camera. Do you want to send we're not sending a TV camera. We could send a TV camera. That'd be quite cool. No, let's send let's send something light, a thermometer. A thermometer. What does that do for it? That drops it a little tiny bit. Drains a little bit more power. Okay, that's not terrible. So thermometers are really light, so let's try a barometer as well. Let's get that in. What's a barometer going to do? And you can see these values are changing as we go. The magnetometer takes a huge amount of mass there. Radiation detection, thermometer, barometer. So the barometer is almost massless. It's so light, it's not a problem. So we're actually going to keep those two. We're going to keep those two there. We're also going to turn them on, and it's going to show us it drops to 4 days. So we're on the cusp right now of what we can do. I'm happy with that. 3136 I think is okay. I think we'll probably end up burning longer than that. I think this is a pessimistic aim, and we'll give this a go. So we're going to save that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually reposition all of this stuff. We're going to move with a little bit of this offset. We're going to move this inside the cone. There we go. And you see the cone's got quite long now. And there we are, and we can just sit it in there like so. And in fact, if we do this nicely, what we can actually do is just bury that in there. Right, there we go. That is ready. We've got our little sheath around the outside. We're going to make that pretty. We'll do that pretty. And what I will do is I will slap this on top of one of our Javelin 3Ds that we developed for the last mission without its sort of little jumper payload pusher thing. And we'll do that. So what I'll do is I'll do that off camera, and then we'll put it in the build queue. Obviously we've got to tool this. We'll put it in the build queue, and then I will probably join you on either the launch pad or in space. So I will see you in but a moment. Right, before we actually do anything, we actually need to have a look at our tech and things like that before we launch this craft. And we've also got a big chunk of money to spend. At the moment, and I'll just show you this, Luna 1 is building. It's going to take 100 days. That's a long time for us. That's actually, you know, we're falling behind schedule quite a bit doing that. We've also got a bit of science, and we need to think about what we want to spend it on. Well, we probably want to head up towards interplanetary communications, because sending those missions out quickly is probably a good idea to get stuff back from them. So we could just push on with that. We are trying to go for human rated stuff though, so you know what, we're going to get that human rated descent and landing. That's good for us. That takes us so that we're now at the point of we just need crew survivability and early spaceflight materials. Early spaceflight materials, that's going to give us service modules upgrade tank, which is good for us if we're going to do any satellite missions that need payload for that. And crew survivability is just required. We can afford to get one of them. I'm going to go for this one. There we go. So we're now well on our way there. We basically need the last node, and then we can push on to get those first early capsules. And once we're there, we can basically leave that for now while we go and have a look at our comms again. So we're looking at what, 15 for that, and then another 20 for that. But we need to actually upgrade our R&D for that. It's going to cost us money. Now, how much is R&D upgrade going to cost? It's going to cost a big chunk. I am tempted to start that now. It's going to help our research rate as well. So let's do that. Let's get that done. We'd really like to upgrade the VAB. That is going to cost a bit of funds. I don't really want to wait for that. So instead, I'm going to put some upgrade points in. We're going to take this down to, let's take it down to about 50. Okay. And this is to be conservative again. So we're going to put a couple of points in the VAB. We're going to take that to 30. And I think we're going to put another 2 in. 3. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to balance these at the moment. And then I'm going to put an extra point in R&D. There we go. So our R&D is going to still be taking a while. We've got a few things that are going to take a while there. But these builds are not going to be as slow, so they've only got 160 days, and importantly, this is going to be a bit faster. We can actually launch 2 of these, so we've got Luna 1, and you know what, we're going to rename this one. This is actually just a duplicate. We're going to rename this Luna 2. There we go. If this works, we'll just fire off Luna 2 afterwards. If not, well, anyway. So I'm going to fast forward, get this thing onto the launch pad, and I'm going to show you my launch approach for this, okay? Right, here we are on the launch pad. You can see, oh, it's actually quite high up in the air. I should have lowered it down. What we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to come out into the map view, and we want to target the moon. I will keep wanting to call it the moon, so we're going to set the moon as target. The next step is we need to bring up, and you can do launch into plane if you want to do PVG, and I've said this before, but you can actually just launch into plane. But if you want to do it semi-manually, or you want to understand a bit about what you're doing and why you wouldn't just launch at certain points, do it yourself and have a look. So rendezvous planner is going to be what we're going to look at. We're not going to use it, but we're just going to show it. You can see here relative inclination. This tells me, you know, if I launch now, how off in inclination are my things going to be. Now, we're launching from the Cape, so we're actually potentially going to get this, if we just let the planet rotate underneath with the moon, we're going to end up almost perfectly underneath the moon's orbit and sort of aligned to it. So this will actually go down to, I think it's 0.2 or 0.3, something like that. However, if I launch at 0.2 or 0.3, I am then going to enter orbit, or go to orbital speed, well after that time. So what I do is I wait until about maybe 2 degrees before, and it depends on your rocket and how long it takes to do its burns. 2 degrees before, probably a good idea. Now I'm hoping this rocket can actually get to orbit. I'm hoping, and we don't need a high orbit, we just need, in fact, the lower the orbit the better. It gives me a bit more freedom with how we do stuff. But let's have a look. So what we're going to do is we're going to time warp forward, and we'll see that is going down. I may cut this bit out because it is a bit tedious sometimes. You've got to sort of keep your eye on it. You could just do a fast forward to a certain point. I'm not going to do that. And hopefully we'll be launching in the daytime. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be night, because the sun is coming up, which means it's probably going to set by the time that we actually get to our launch. Because I believe, because of where the Cape is, I think there's one time per day that it will actually be in the right position. I believe. I'd have to check that. Other launch sites will be under the orbit of the moon. If it's a higher inclination, twice a day. The Cape is a little different to that because it's so near. I think you basically get one, and so we'll see. Yeah, we're going to be past midday now, and we're moving along. And so I'm going to slow down now, and we're still watching our times ticking. We're going to speed up a little bit, and this is like watching paint dry for you, isn't it? Yeah, watching paint dry. We're going to get it down to about 2.5. Then I'm going to basically slow it right down. So here we go. You can play around with this. I think this craft is probably going to be about 2 degrees before that we're going to be looking for, primarily just because of that final stage. you can do the maths for it, and you can also just use PVG, and that will calculate it for you. It'll figure out how long it's going to take you to get to orbital speed, and then it'll backtrack and figure out where you should launch, and that's how it works. And then it does some on-the-fly calculations to work it out. But we're just going to go for a rough ballpark estimate. It looks a bit strange because you're not going to be, when you launch, on this sort of perfect, miles from the inclination, but we're going to launch in that sort of equatorial direction, and it should bring it down. This is where obviously all of my talk fails. So there we go. We're going to stop it now. We're just on normal pace. We're going to set everything up. We've got everything thrusting. So in 3, in 2, it's not moving. You should be moving. Thank you. In 1, right? Let's fire some engines, and there we go. And we went down. That's impressive. We went downwards at the start. That's it's a new all-time high on this craft, isn't it? So we are, as always, slowly taking off. I really need to put some boosters onto this thing, because this is killing me right now. If we don't make it to orbit, it may be because I let the engines go a little bit too early there. They weren't up at full speed, and so we actually had to counter that downwards movement, that slight downwards movement drop, which is very sort of like, is that Vanguard that did the drop when they first launched the first Vanguard, and it dropped, and then it thought that it's had a failure, and it fired off its stopping its engines and things like that. I can't remember. There was a lot of interesting rocket launches from the Americans early on. We're going to put this onto the time warp again, because this first section is just laborious going up. So there we go. We're going to start turning over now. This craft is now getting some speed up, and we've used a big chunk of our fuel just going nowhere. Yeah, so I think definitely some solids on here, some casters, will really help this. It may mean that, it actually slows down higher up in the atmosphere as the casters leave, it won't accelerate at the same rate, but I think there'll be a positive impact on it anyway. Alright, so just turn it over a bit, and the more that we turn, the more that we're actually going to be getting more efficiency from this, because we're not using so much fuel just to fight against gravity. We're actually going to be getting ourselves horizontal, and that's really important for this rocket. I should actually try and just get that turning as quickly as possible. I've been really inefficient there, so if we don't make it to orbit, it is my fault completely for this one. Alright, up and away we go. Now the positive is, if we get this right, we don't waste a lot of fuel by having to burn away from our direction of travel. We can actually do quite well and save fuel. But my launch profile here is terrible today. This is actually a horrible profile. Yeah, I've gone up and I've done this badly, but we'll see what happens. So we're looking at, we want basically an altitude of, I would say 140. So I'm going to pull this all the way down now to about 15. Yeah, we just want to do that. We'll do that. And we keep going. This engine's got a long burn left on it, actually. I do wonder whether we could actually just shorten that burn. If we shorten that burn, we could get up faster, and it'd probably be more efficient. We might actually be better off doing that, because we lose so much later on. Oh, a little glitch there in the old graphics as it's realigning itself. Put this onto 0 ball. We're at 200 meters targeting. There we go. So being 200 meters is up is okay. I don't mind that. And there you can go. You can see our probe on the top there going up like that. Right, so I am going to get this up into orbit, and I'll come back to you when we are hopefully on orbit. Right, we are in orbit, and you'll see we've got a relative inclination there of 0.11. So now it's just a case of setting up our maneuver node. So I'm going to set that up, and then I'm going to show you what I've been doing. Right, I have set a maneuver node, so we're going to depart here, and it's going to, and we can actually just look over here, it's going to hopefully impact the moon in about 3 days. Now, that's not going to depart for another 40 minutes, something like that. Which is of concern for us, because we've got a certain amount of electric charge available. So let's have a look on here. We've got a little bit of this here. That shows 8 hours. That's because we're actually using this probe core here as well, which takes a lot of electricity. So what we'll do is we'll actually transfer electricity from this probe core into here just before we separate, so that we've got all the electric charge in our final one. Hopefully this journey time it's only 3 days, so that should be quite acceptable. So I'm going to accelerate to the node, and then you can watch me try and get this, and I'm not sure if we'll manage it. Right, so we come out of the time warp reasonably early, probably could have done that manually. Put on the RCS, and this is now going to fire us and put us in alignment with where we need to go. And while that's happening, we're going to move this electric charge. We're going to go out of there into this top one. So there, that gives us that full, and we don't need to worry about this anymore. Now, this may not work. You know, solids going to unguided is not a great one in the current game. So we'll have to see what happens. We're on target. So we're going to start a roll, is what we want to do. We want a slight roll just to balance out any problems that we might have. We're going to hit the node in 40, 45 seconds, something like that. So we're just going to do that, keep that, okay, keep that going, That's nice, just keep the roll going. We don't want to go rolling too fast. We're going to hit the node in 20 seconds, so we want to actually go about 10 seconds before the node is what we're looking for. That's what we want, and hopefully we're going to be okay. We might not have enough. It depends on how MechJeb is calculating this. We may have to try again. So there we go, firing. Now let's see how much we get towards the end. I'm worried. I am worried because the variability of these is quite high. I think it's like 2% or something like that. So even just getting into the sphere of influence of the moon would be really nice for us. It would be really good. So let's see what it's going to do. We're getting in there with the final little bits of fuel going all the way down to, we're going to be out by, what are we going to be short by? We're going to be short by 149. 149 short, so we're not going to be going to the moon today. Okay, 149. Right. We can work on that. We can get that back. We can modify that second craft if we have time to do that. But I suppose if nothing else, we've actually figured out that we can get a reasonably high altitude. So let's see, are we going to get some science from this that's actually relevant? That's the important thing. So are we going to get science high? Let's have a look. Are we waiting on it? We can go a little bit faster. We're going out there. I'm hoping that we're actually going to get some science high. That would be really nice. Transmitting. We've got definitely. We can also check our transmission strength. We can actually, see. Oh, there we go. There we go. Earth high science. Wonderful. We've got big chunks of it. So what's that done for our science? Yeah, it gives a big chunk of science. So this is not a failed mission. It's just a Pathfinder. I think. Was it the Russians or the Americans? I think both of them have had issues regarding missing the moon and flying past it. So we're in good company there. We actually under thrusted, and it looks as though we only went about halfway, but in reality, we're only 100 meters per second off getting up there. That's only the difference. 150 meters is what we're looking at. So we know that actually, if we put an extra 150 meters, we can potentially be nearby with that. In the next run. So I think we'll look at that, and maybe in the next episode we will look at, can we get a little closer? Can we get this thing into there? And if not, we can actually start putting together, because we've now got little thrusters and things like that, we can actually put together a probe that's going to be hopefully a little bit more controlled. We might use some casters and stuff to get a bigger load up into orbit, and then we can do this properly, or at least semi-properly. We can use liquid fuel engines or something to do this. We'll have a look. We've got a nice small craft that we can put on there. So I think that's it for now. So from me, until next time, have a great one.